Hey guys, JB here from Alpha Wolf Consulting. Welcome back to another session of the Alpha Wolf Personal Development and Expansion series. Alrighty, and in this session, we're going to talk a lot about understanding how to do self-analysis, so understanding self-analyzation, so how we analyze ourselves, so my thoughts, the language I use, my feelings, the emotions I'm feeling, the meaning behind those emotions, to really understand and be able to see our habitual patterns. So our habitual patterns are behavioral outcomes. So our habits equal behaviors, our beliefs equal, our emotions, the meaning that I put behind the beliefs or the language that I use creates the emotion, and the meaning I put behind the emotions that I'm feeling create the emotions. So what we're looking at is a holistic approach of being able to every step of the way reflect and analyze our language, our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, our feelings, the meaning that we're giving to it, and the behavioral outcomes that are a result of the habits that we're forming and creating. So it's very important to understand the different forms or ways that we can self-reflect and creating the processes and the practices within our day-to-day life. So to understand this is just to understand there are many different forms of self-reflection, self-analysis that we can use as tools to be able to slow down, pull our focus back, and analyze the situation or what has happened. Because if we're always running down the path, we don't have time to see what the path looks like. So we could be running off the edge of a cliff. And a lot of people do this metaphorically in their emotions. They don't become observant of their emotions and then they run off the cliff of emotional instability, where, you know, they're getting angrier and angrier, or more and more frustrated, or more and more depressed, or more and more lonely until it all spills over in an uncontrolled manner. And this tends to happen when we are not observant. If I drive the car looking at a bird in a tree, I am more likely to crash than if I drive the car looking at the road in front of me. So when I understand my situational positioning in the environment, in the experience, or whatever it may be, I am able to gain bearing on what is around me. When I have no situational awareness, all I see is what is directly in front of me. So I do not understand what is happening. So there are three main processes that I use in self-reflection. One is deep thought. So thinking over and doing an after action report on what has happened within yourself. So if we've had, let's say, an experience where we got into an argument with someone that we cared about, and we don't know why it goes that way. So we're looking at it, we're looking at what was said. And the key to this is that we're not looking at it subjectively, we're looking at it objectively. We are not the subject when we analyze our behavior. We are objectively looking at it if it was someone else behaving that way. And that's how we get over the trap of personal bias or bias between, our behaviors and the outcomes and all of that, making up these excuses of why something went the way that it went, or why we are accepted, or it's acceptable for us to behave like this, why we are the exception. So to get away from that kind of thinking, we want to be objective. So we want to look at the behavior for what the behavior is. We want to look at the thoughts and the beliefs for what they are. So to understand this is we have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind understands everything in logic and language. The unconscious mind only ever understands in emotions. So, like emotions and meaning. So, we just got to understand in our conscious mind, okay, when there's a misalignment, when we consciously don't think about ourselves positively, it will be our language and our thoughts that are negative about ourselves. If it's in the subconscious, it's that I don't feel good about who I am. The meaning behind who I am is not good to me. So we just got to understand when we're analyzing, we want to break it up into two segments. The first is becoming aware of our conscious thought. The second is becoming aware of how we feel. Okay. So if I think positively about myself, am I feeling positive about myself? If I think positively about myself, but I feel anxiety and anxiousness about myself, there is a misalignment, which means I've got my conscious mind in lockstep, but my unconscious mind is not. So we got to work through that, and we got to analyze and understand, why am I not feeling positive about myself when I say positive things about myself? Is it that I don't believe in myself? Is it that, I have negative associations to this? So, to understand this is just, we have to invest a lot of time in mapping the terrain, which is our mind or our experience. So when we're mapping the terrain of our experience, and I'm saying that, I'm trying to do something new, and I'm saying, you can do this, you are good enough, but I'm not feeling that way. I feel stress. I feel all these different plethora of emotions, self-doubt, all of this. So I have to be able to go into my subconscious and understand, well, why don't I feel like that? And like we found out when we were trying to understand how to reprogram our emotions, our emotional state is the meaning. So the words and the meaning of those words, okay, so the meaning we give to the words that we are, or the feelings that we are feeling, okay, and the memory associated to it. So there will be a disconnect between the meaning and the memory associated. Either what is happening is I'm saying and using language and language patterns that are positive, and then I'm getting negative association through either the meaning or the memories associated to them. So things like, you know, if we look at it from a context of a relationship, it might be, I deserve someone who cares about me and wants to be with me for me. And then I might feel like I'm not good enough for that. So the thing is the meaning that I am putting to those emotions. So that feeling of not good enough, like why? Why am I feeling that? Why do I feel that? This is the meaning. The meaning is understanding the why. So understanding the why am I feeling this? So why do I feel like I'm not good enough for love and that people shouldn't love me for who I am? And then the memories associated to it. So the memories will be linked through past experience of all the times where people made me feel that way, where people used me, where people manipulated me, where people did this, people did that. Do you sort of get it? Like it's all these times, but it's in understanding, okay, that it's they did not do something to me, because we're not looking at it subjectively. So we're looking at it objectively of, why do I feel not good enough? And then we look at the meanings. Okay, what is the meaning of not good enough? Like we're not looking at it as, what is the meaning that I am not good enough? It's just, what is the meaning of not good enough? Okay, and we analyze that and we look at it. Okay, so to understand this is just to understand when we're trying to look at our emotions, okay, and our feelings, because that's the majority. The difficult aspect of these practices is the subconscious, even though it's the easiest part of it, because the subconscious doesn't know reason, doesn't know logic. If someone spits in my face, my subconscious doesn't know if it's a good or a bad thing. My subconscious doesn't care if it's a good or a bad thing. My subconscious is directed by me assigning if it's a good or a bad thing. So it's the easiest to reprogram because it has no conceptualization of what should be, what needs to be. Our conscious mind says if someone spits in my face, they have disrespected me. They have taken an action against me, and starts creating all these logical cases and arguments for why it is. Our subconscious mind doesn't do that. Our subconscious mind mostly responds to stimuli. So if someone slaps me in the face, that is an attack. So it's sort of like the stimuli will be a response from my self-preservation. Someone has threatened me, someone has, whatever it may be. So that will be the stimuli that my subconscious is running on. But it's the meaning I give to that. So is a slap in the face someone just slapping me in the face? Is a slap in the face the preemptive to further strikes or to an altercation? Is a slap in the face an indication of extreme violence? Like all these different layers of the meaning of what it means or why it's happening. So we're trying to see why we are feeling these ways. And when we see it, then we're able to alter it. Because when I feel like, for example, if if someone slaps me in the face, like when I feel threatened, I'm able to look at it and understand, well, why do I feel threatened? Okay, someone's just slapped me in the face. So I'm able to assess that and say, am I in danger? Am I being threatened? Okay, no, like they didn't follow it up with another four combos. Like, so it's sort of like we're assessing, okay, what has happened, and instead of us letting our subconscious dictate the meaning of it, we are analyzing the meaning as it happens or post to it happening, and we are reprogramming it with the meaning that we want. So, for example, you know, the meaning of being slapped in the face could be my life is in danger. The meaning of being slapped in the face could be prepared to defend yourself. Like it's two completely different things. So if my life is in danger, like now I'm on survival instincts. Now I'm, fight or flight. If it's prepared to defend yourself, well, now I'm going to start, you know, not so much falling into the fight or flight where I'm just reacting. Now I'm going to start preemptively preparing. Do you know what I mean? So it's sort of like it holds different meaning. One, or not so much different meaning, but different outcomes. So one is where something has happened. So a stimuli in the environment or a situation or event in the environment has happened, and now I have to respond and sort of work my way out of this negative environment. Whereas the other way is I am now preparing myself mentally and physically for further attack, for, to defend myself if need be, to do this, to do that. Like one is in a panic mindset of something bad has happened, I need to get out. The other is in a more centered, calm mindset of something's happened. I need to become alert. I need to become aware. So these are just some sort of not even extreme circumstances, but basically it's the easiest way for us to understand it when it is in in our survival instinct, because that's what we subconsciously will naturally do. If someone breaks up with me, it's the end of the world. I'm this, I'm that, I'm blah, blah, blah. So what we got to understand is that, like, our subconscious mind really only understands in terms of survival. So it doesn't understand in terms of the social connection that someone has done this to me and it's this and it's that and it's this and it's that. It's more like if I get slapped in the face, is my life in danger or is it not? That's all my subconscious mind wants to know. Do you know what I mean? So we just got to understand this. And the easiest way to see it is if you're out drinking, okay, as a young fella, and you've ever been slapped by a mate as a joke, it takes a couple of seconds of registering that it wasn't a threat, it wasn't an aggressive, action, that, you know, this is a joke and all of that, and it's a bit of fun. Not to say that that behavior is acceptable, but it's just that if you've ever noticed when your instant response was to deal with the threat and you had to sort of talk yourself down from it because you misinterpreted the environment or the situation or the circumstance or whatever happened. So it's very important to understand this because this is the process that we are trying to achieve, is that self-realization in the moment that things are happening, to be able to assess and determine what is like going on. Our habitual behaviors are subconscious in nature. So they're what we do all the time. If someone slaps me in the face, I respond this way. And it becomes so ingrained that we don't even notice it. So, like, for example, if someone says something to me snarky, then I say something dismissive back to them. Like it's a habitual response because it's the response I've selected. Do you know what I mean? So if I want to change that response, like it's not about trying to reprogram everything else. I have to become aware in the moment to be able to discern when someone's saying something snarky to me and then be able to assess my response. Do I want to respond dismissively? Do I want to respond aggressively? Do I want to respond snarkily? Do I want to respond, as a joke? Whatever it may be, do I not want to respond at all? So it's taking that control from action happens, I react, to action happens, I assess, and then I determine the best outcome. So it's a very important thing because when we are trying to alter our behavior is a habitual pattern. So our behavior, we have conscious behavior. I'm walking down the street and I see a sign and I feel like a Coke. So I make a decision to go in and buy a Coke. Like that's a conscious decision. When I'm walking down the street and something stressful happens to me and I instantly light up a cigarette or I feel a strong compulsion to smoke, like that's a habitual behavior. So it's not a conscious decision, it's a response to environmental stimuli. So we just got to understand the difference, that what we are trying to achieve when becoming our ideal self is that we are trying to be the person who is in full control over determining what behaviors I have consciously. So it's through conscious focus and attention. And conscious focus and attention is the sum of the energy, focus, and importance, or no, the energy, the time, and the importance we put onto things. If it's important for me to be aware of, for example, my anger, and to not fall into anger responses or be triggered into anger responses, then I put in the time and the effort, energy required to cease that program from running, that habitual program. When I feel angry, I alter it through time and energy. So I take the time to be observant of my actions, especially when I'm feeling certain ways, and I put in the energy required to alter the path of that behavior. So if I'm feeling angry, then I put in the time and the effort to alter the narrative to where I'm feeling happy. So if I keep telling myself I feel happy, at a certain point in time, I will feel happy. Like that's just how it works. Our brains are like that. They have finite ability for processing. So if I choose to always focus on the negative things that happen and amplify the negative things, more negative things will happen. If I choose to focus on the positive and amplify the positive, more positive will happen. Where focus goes, attention flows. Whatever we focus on becomes our attention. So our attention will naturally follow whatever our eyes look at. So, for example, if I'm walking down the street and I'm looking to the left side of the street, my attention isn't 3 blocks back to me. My attention is where my visual stimuli is, or where my visual focus goes. Like this is how our brain operates. And it's very, very important to understand this because it's always plain for everyone else to see the negative behaviors that we hold within ourselves. It's always impossible for us to see it ourselves because we are always outward focused, not inward focused. So when we're trying to do self-analyzation or self-analysis practices, this is about taking that focus inwards. When I'm walking down the street and I'm observing the left side of the street, I start to assess, why am I doing that? What is over there? What is causing me to look that way? Is it that it's just comfortable for my body position? Is it that there's other people over there? Is it that there's different colors, flowers, trees, whatever it may be, nice architecture? Like we're looking and understanding, why am I looking that way? And that's self-analysis. So we have the after action report where I observe. So for example, I can sit down on my lunch break, and we mostly do this when we're eating or when we're pondering things, where I sit there and I just think about it. So I might be eating dinner and I might be thinking about what I did today. So I'm going through and doing a play by play. Then there's the in the moment analysis. This is a harder one. Okay. So this is where in each moment, when I feel myself getting angry, I start analyzing, why am I feeling this way? So it's in the moment. So we got to understand that in the moment, it takes a lot of understanding, but we have to first start with the like after action report is the easiest way to do it, because it's the easiest way for us to start understanding and noticing trends in behaviors, trends in actions, in what we're doing, trends in our feelings, trends in our thoughts, trends in our beliefs. So it's only through collecting and reviewing data do we identify trends or patterns in that data. If I do not collect the data, I cannot see a trend because I do not see the picture. So I must see the full picture. So to see the full picture, it's very important for me to start collecting it or painting it. And only once I have painted enough of it do I start to see the patterns and the movements. And when I have identified the patterns and the movements, then when I am trying to, in the moment, observe my states of mind and my emotional states, okay? So in the moment, it becomes easier because I already have these triggers or these indicators of specific things. So maybe I notice that I talk negatively to myself a lot, okay, in the after action report. So I notice that, there are certain terminology or certain things I say. I might notice that I say, oh, wake up to yourself, mate, a lot. And I notice that I've said that a lot. Now, in the moment when I go to say that, it becomes easier to notice because I've already indicated that that's something negative that I say to myself. So as I go to say it, I'll start to catch myself more and more every time I say it. And I become more aware of the language I'm using and understanding why I'm using that language. Like, why am I saying that? Is that what someone said to me every time that I did something wrong? They said, wake up to yourself, mate. So now I say that and I have that same intention. All right. And then the last way or the third way, it's not the last way, but there's a million ways to skin a cat. So basically, any way, like it's just a process of identifying trends, understanding those trends in the data. So collecting the data and then actively in the moment identifying those indicators that we've identified as either negative or positive trends. So maybe I want to amplify the positivity that I say to myself. So every time I catch myself complimenting myself or thinking positively of myself, I amplify it. So the last practice is about doing it in deep analysis. So in deep analysis, this is where we introduce relaxation and meditative practices to it, where it's not that I'm observing what's happened to me today, but I am letting my subconscious take me on a journey to show me what is happening within my mind. And for this practice, we just need to, so for anything to do with the subconscious, it's all about body movement, crossing the hemispheres. That's it. Once we introduce this, if I don't cross the hemispheres, I am only ever in my conscious mind, unless I am emotionally unstable or instable. No, unstable. So if I'm in a unstable position where I'm over emotional, now I'm all in my subconscious in my right hemisphere. When I'm sitting here thinking and talking to you, I'm talking to you from my left hemisphere. So to understand this is just to understand when we want to work on our subconscious mind, my emotions and feelings, it's crossing the hemispheres. And however you want to do this practice is however you want to do it. It doesn't matter. It's just a process of understanding and being guided through your mind. Because we are not just one identity, because our identity and this idea of self is something that is created within us by us. So there is the conscious me and the unconscious me. If I am both, I have to control both. If there is the unconscious me that controls my unconscious mind, I am able to basically delegate work to it. I don't have to control my unconscious mind. All I need to do is have a good relationship with the identity that is the unconscious mind or my unconscious mind. So what we are doing is we are creating a conversation within our mind of my conscious hemisphere, so my left hemisphere, and my right hemisphere, my unconscious hemisphere. And when we create a conversation, we are able to experience it and be guided through and shown what is truly important to our unconscious mind and what means something. So this is a good practice to do when we are trying to understand the sort of the bigger things or understand traumas or understand, what are our limiting beliefs or what are holding us back. And we will get all the answers that we want. All the answers that we want and seek are within our mind. And you already know every bit of information that I tell you. It's just there is a difference between knowing the words of how to describe something and knowing how to implement and do something. We all have this understanding of how to control our mind and body, but our identity or our ego creates all these rules and all this additional bullshit to create illusions to avoid that. Because to become our true self, the ego must die. And for the ego to die is simply understanding its position, that the ego is our conscious mind, nothing more, nothing less. Our unconscious mind is our emotions, is our feelings. So our ego doesn't control our emotions and our feelings. But the ego, for it to admit that it does not control something, it ceases to be. So that's an important thing to understand, is if you find yourself becoming offended or being hurt by what other people think, feel, or believe, that's all your ego, because your ego's holding on to the power of its importance in dictating and controlling your life. So through this practice, we just understand that my thoughts and my beliefs of what is right, what is wrong, isn't there. I am just observing, not as the subject. The ego always wants to be the subject because the ego creates its importance in being this whole identity of self. Whereas what we actually have is our conscious mind, our unconscious mind, and our higher consciousness. So we either see our conscious mind as me, my ego is who I am. I cannot change anything about who I am because it's just who I am. And we see our subconscious. I can't change it. I'm just addicted to these things. I can't change how I feel. I just feel this way. So, through the understanding of trying to hold on to control, we have no control. Through letting go of control, we become able to control everything. Why? Because if I am not my conscious thoughts, I can change my conscious thoughts at will without losing any aspect of me. If I am not my emotions and my feelings, I can change them at any time because they are not me. So if I determine that I am a happy person, every time I don't feel happy, I can just throw those feelings away. Do you sort of get it? Like I choose who I want to be. So it's important to understand that when we're doing this practice of being guided through our subconscious mind or through our subconscious thoughts, we are not the ones dictating what it is meant to be and how it is meant to look. We are simply an observer. So when we are observing it, it's observing it as if we are watching a movie, as if we are being told something by someone else without need to control it because there is nothing to control. When I try and control my thoughts, I become controlled by my thoughts. To understand this is if I'm trying to be healthy and have a good diet, I become controlled by the diet. So if I'm always thinking about, I have to be healthy, 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 the diet controls me. So I don't have control over my diet. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. I can't do this. I can't do that. All I'm thinking about is what I have to give up and what I am losing. So naturally, my psychology will start to become perverted in the sense that when I think about all the things that I can't have, I create this additional meaning to I wish I could have them, but I just can't, which means that I associate a negative emotional attachment to that thing, i.e., if I'm trying to be healthy and then I can't have chocolate, I can't have this, I can't have that. So all I'm thinking about is chocolate. I wish I could have chocolate. I wish I could have chocolate. And then that chocolate, I'm making it in my mind smell better, taste better, like all of this. That's why the hit is never as good as the thought about the hit. So when I'm on a diet, a strict diet, and I'm thinking about, oh, how good it'd be if I could have a piece of cake, blah, 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 and I'm making it out to be bigger than it is, and then I have the piece of cake and it doesn't, it's not as good as I thought it was going to be, or it makes me feel like shit. So just understand that that's what happens when we try to control is through control, I'm focusing on what I don't have. Whereas when I let go of control, all I have to do is focus on what I want. Do you sort of see? So if I'm trying to control the conversation with my subconscious and the sort of guided tour through my thoughts, well, I'm going to be focusing on the thoughts that I don't want, on the things that I don't want, on everything that I don't want. I'm not going to be focused on what I want. So we have to let go and just observe. And the easiest way to do this is to just let go of the need for validation in terms of dropping the attachment to needing to be this identity of self, needing to be this self to feel good about who I am. It's all about my achievements. It's all about what I've done. That's what makes me feel good about who I am. You know what I mean? So in doing this practice, all we're doing is getting into a relaxed, calm position. So when we're trying to do it, we just cross our hemispheres and we just relax. And then we let our mind wander. If our mind wants to take us through the darkest depths of hell, we go on a leisurely walk through the darkest depths of hell. Like the only way to build a garden is to get rid of the weeds. Do you sort of get it? Like we can have in this idea in our mind that our mind, through our life's experience, should be all rainbows and sunshine. But it's not going to be because of experiences and because life is life. So the thing is that it's not like the expectation shouldn't be when I am starting to plant and build my garden that I should be starting from a neutral or a base level. Like we don't learn to swim walking ankle deep. We learn to swim being pushed into the deep end and having to learn, like having to swim. So that is what this practice will feel like in the beginning. If you haven't invested into understanding your mind, your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, the meaning behind them, the memory association, it's going to be a fun roller coaster ride trying to put everything in order. So the important thing to understand is that when we're starting off, that's the whole point. It's that feeling of being pushed into the deep end, not knowing how to swim. So what do? Do we panic? Do we start flailing around? Or do we calmly do the motions that we need? So through detaching, okay, that need for subjectivity, that need for self-importance, that need to exist, and we just observe, and we just observe it, and we accept all the negative aspects of who we are. And if we don't like them, we change them. So maybe we're a mean and cruel person at times, and we've done mean and cruel things. Do I want to be mean and cruel? No. So I change that and I stop associating that to me. While I may have been mean and cruel in the past, I am not dictated by my past. I can change it. And then we live up to it and we change it. Now, a key thing to understand about this Our subconscious mind and our conscious mind keep the records of all the bullshit lies we tell. So if I'm saying to myself that I want to be someone who is kind, but in every opportunity I get to be kind, I'm a jackass and an asshole to other people. Like I can talk as much shit to myself and try and convince myself that I'm a nice, kind person. But my subconscious, my conscious mind, they keep the score. They know all the bullshit. So don't lie to yourself. Don't create illusions. Okay. That's an important thing because the illusions you create will always shatter and be shattered by your conscious and your subconscious mind. And that's why a lot of people have self-worth issues, or not so much self-worth, but they have self-esteem issues. It's because they tell themselves stories and they don't back it up, or they put too much importance on the opinions of others on themselves. So if other people think that they're worthless, they think that they're worthless. Or they create illusions, like saying, like, I'm eating a healthy diet and then eating Maccas every second day. I care about health, but I eat Maccas every second day. Like, you know what I mean? Like your subconscious and your conscious mind aren't getting a memory wipe every time you do take negative actions. So if your goal in life is to take positive actions and to become a positive person, the only way out is through. The only way to become a positive person is to be a positive person. The only way to be to become a kind person is to be a fucking kind person. So in every moment, you choose kindness. So what is kindness? Kindness might be you slap me in the face, and then instead of me, kicking your teeth in, I choose to let it go. And I choose to give you a stern warning instead and say, hey, don't do that again. That's not a good time. You know what I mean? Maybe I don't want to be a kind person in life. Maybe I don't want to be a positive person. You slap me in the face, and then I take your two front teeth and wear it as a trophy to remind you every time of the mistake that you made. Do you sort of get it? Like we can choose who we want to be. Like we're not dictated to only ever being a good person in life. But if that's who you want to be, then you have to enact and act like that. Do you sort of understand? It's on no one but you. So if you talk shit to yourself that I'm a kind person, and then every opportunity you get, you shit all over other people, you demean people, you dismiss people, you do this, you do that, you're cruel to people. Like talk as much shit to yourself as you want, but your subconscious and your conscious mind are keeping score of every lie that you told, and that becomes your torture, your trauma. Trauma is every time you had the opportunity to be who you wanted to be, chose opposite, you did something different. You weren't that person. So it's very important that authenticity is just being honest with oneself and being honest with one's actions. And our habits, okay, are just the outcomes. So, for example, if every time someone slaps me in the face, I, sternly tell them and warn them, like, hey, that's not a good idea. Every time that happens, it becomes a habit. And the habit leads to the behavior. So the habit is the outcome, or the behavior is the outcome of the habitual pattern we have to work through and deal with things. If every time I feel myself getting stressed, I breathe deeply, I analyze, I talk it through, I overcome it. That becomes the habit to the behavior. A behavior is a consequence of of our thoughts and our feelings, of the decisions we make every day, all day, every moment. Like it's conditioning. That's it. So the habit is just conditioned in ways of dealing with things. The behavior is just conditioned in ways of dealing with things. So when we're understanding this, we're just understanding that if I have negative behaviors that I want to change within myself, it just means I have negative ways of dealing with things or ways that I try to deal with things. If I want to change that, I have to become aware of the habitual patterns. So my habitual thoughts, my habitual beliefs, my habitual emotions and feelings, the habitual meanings I give to things, the habitual memories that I bring up in association to those meanings. And when I do that, I am now able to curate and redirect to hold new meaning, to hold new direction. So that if someone says something nasty to me, I don't have to respond to the situation. I get to determine the situation. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll jump on and finish it off tomorrow. Have a great one. Thanks so much. Bye.